This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
The man, the myth, the legend, that is Joe Schad. Mr. Schad, how are you doing, sir?
Good, Big O. How are you today?
I am feeling good. I'm hoping that Will Fuller feels better than I do. Have you heard anything? Do you know if this is precautionary or something else?
Well, he was listed with multiple injuries, and he also had cramping at the end of the last game. So, not being a participant, not being out of practice at all on a Wednesday is not a good sign. Obviously, I'm here in my kitchen and not out of practice, so I don't know if he is going to practice today. If he doesn't, that certainly, makes it far less likely that he's able to play against the Colts, which will help because, hey, if Fuller had been able to come down with that long touchdown catch in the end zone against the Raiders, we would be talking about the incredible impact that Fuller is already having. Yeah. So if he can't go, now you got to address Preston Williams or Albert Rolson, your favorite, both of whom were scratched last week.
Yeah, I was happy that they scratched Preston. I want them to take it nice and slow with Preston and give that young man some time to truly get healthy. That's what he needs right now. So that way he can actually, maybe move on with his career and kind of show us live up to the stuff that he has teased us with so far with his skill and ability. And I would imagine this is, one of the things I've told fans, the guy that's got to be more frustrated than anybody else is Will Fuller, because he's on a 1-year prove it type deal. And he's at a point in his life where if he ever wanted that multi-year deal, now's the time with his age. But if this continues, he'll never see that multi-year deal.
Yeah, I think the injuries are part of Fuller's frustrations, since becoming a Dolphin. He hasn't practiced much with the Dolphins, and he obviously had an injury-marred career in Houston. Was very good when he was playing, sort of Devontae Parker-like. When he's on the field, he's very good, but misses too much time. And of course, the Dolphins, have multiple players with injury histories. And we talked about this before the season even started, the idea that, if the Dolphins could have at least 2 of the 3 available every week, would you sign up for that? And that might be the track that we're on. We might have been onto something there.
Yeah, you were onto something there with that one on the 2 for 3. This week, so you get to hear the proverbial bullshit of it's just another game from Jacoby Brissett, right? Is that because that's how you get it every week, every time a player's facing his former team, and we all know, it's like Tom Brady had that bitch circled in the offseason going, I can't wait to go back to Foxborough and to stick it to them. I would imagine that this is a game, whether he wants to admit it or not, this has got to be a game he wants badly.
Yeah, I'm sure that he wants to play well against his former team. I think he also realizes that he was given every opportunity to succeed, an unbelievable quarterback in Andrew Luck. And so it's not like the Colts didn't give him the opportunity to seize the reins and be their franchise quarterback for years to come. There were some really good moments for Jacoby in a Colts uniform, but in his, down the stretch, his most recent starts weren't quite as good. So, yeah, as I get older, I start to realize that not every player playing against their former team is anywhere close to like the legitimacy of the Brady versus Belichick deal. Like that's legit important to both of those guys. Yeah. And, I'm sure it just pained Belichick to watch Brady win without him last year. I don't know that, the Brissett thing doesn't rise anywhere close to that.
No, not even close. And Belichick's also watching Kraft at that stadium to watch Brady win that and even congratulate him too. You know what I'm saying? So even with that book coming out now and all that, all the excerpts coming out of it and all that Kraft says Belichick's the biggest asshole in his life or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, that's I'm sure Brissett is as motivated to get back and to get back at his teammates or at his team, obviously, that let him go. The question is, do they trust him, Joe? Because we haven't spoken since the pregame show. And so after the game, when I was done, one of the things that I noticed is, well, you're inside the 5 and you keep running the Wildcat and then you run it with him. You didn't put it in his hands. Then you go for the 50-yard field goal, which maybe instead of going for the tie, if you trust your quarterback, you go for the jugular and you go for the win and you continue to drive. I look at that brain fart he had, obviously, in the end zone. And then a couple weeks ago, he had a brain fart of an ugly interception on the right side of the field, too. I wonder if they truly trust him. You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing that it's weird because, okay, you signed the guy, and now that you're playing him, you may not trust him. What are your thoughts?
They designed an offense around Tua Tagovailoa, so they've been practicing Tua stuff. And now you got to go to a Jacoby who, is not entirely dissimilar from Tua, but they're not going to run that run-pass option stuff, for example. And so that's part of it, right? You're tweaking the offense in 1 week for a quarterback, and they did have an entire week to prepare. The other thing we have to remember about Jacoby, even though he's a highly capable NFL backup, historically, he's been one of the league laggards in yards per attempt. He's a guy who has never forced the ball down the field. So there were some instances that Jacoby tried to go downfield and it didn't work. I don't know what percentage of time it was his fault versus the receiver. And there were some times where he passed up the chance to throw at a Gesicki, for example, down the field. It seems like Gesicki is a guy who oftentimes is running open with his hand up and not getting the ball. I don't know. Maybe it's harder to see tight ends. There's like an invisible shield around them.
That doesn't make any sense.
The one thing you mentioned that I don't agree with is the going for it in overtime. This is something that a few folks in the media and certainly some fans have suggested was an easy call. They should have just gone for it. And I will say that, number one, it didn't even occur to me at the time that they should go for it. I thought that the obvious slam dunk play there was to kick the game tying field goal. I think in Brian Flores' mind, in a worst case scenario, you're going to end up in a tie situation because he expected his defense to hold. I understand that the game is changing, that teams are taking more risks. You saw John Gruden go for it inexplicably on 4th down from his own 34.
Well,
And the analytics are changing the way even some old school coaches are thinking. And the Dolphins are not a team that went for it on 4th down a lot last year. But, I thought the play there was definitely with a good kicker and a good defense to kick the field goal. I mean, what are the odds the Dolphins are going to convert a 4th and 2 in that spot? And, and as we saw, if they think their best play is a Malcolm Brown Wildcat, how would you feel if Malcolm Brown got stuffed after 1 yard?
Yeah.
We'd be really complaining about the coaching staff and trying to figure out who's calling plays.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. And what's the deal with Gesicki? Why do you think he's being underused? Because it doesn't make any sense. It's higher percentage passes. So it should be easier passes to find Gesicki for quarterbacks. Why do you feel he's being underused? I mean, this past week, finally, they got him the ball, but it's one of those things that why wouldn't he be a bigger part right from the get-go?
Well, I think he's got something going with Jacoby. At least it seemed like he did it, late in the game last week. And it's funny, I asked Gesicki about what he was thinking about when he was running the route on 4th and 20. And he said, I was thinking I need to run a deeper route than they basically told me to. Because he realized, look, I got a long way to go here. And there were just so many short routes. There have been so many short routes. And I think that's their strategy. That's their philosophy. That's their intent. That's their belief that they want to do the death by paper cuts deal that we saw work for Tom Brady. And
you have to be so perfect. You have to be so perfect. You have to be so precise in everything. Your route running, your blocking, your throwing, your catching. and this is not a precise team at this point in time. So it's just it's a weird concept to have right
A
now.
lot
You
of
know what
voices I wrote about in the Palm Beach Post, are too many chefs creating a bland stew. And,
Right.
when you have a lot of ideas, sometimes it kind of boils down to like the lowest common denominator. And, here you have Trent Dilfer coming out and saying that Charlie Fry is the Dolphins play caller. And so
He
I
just
asked
got
Brian
that
Flores,
wrong. He got that wrong. He got that wrong. He got that wrong. He knows Charlie Fry, and Charlie's calling the plays, but not calling the plays. He's just telling the plays to the kid. He got that wrong, dude. I mean,
well, there's a
that's
lot of voices and a lot of filters and a long telephone game and an unusual setup. Okay. And
yeah.
so, George Godsey is trying to think of a play, and Eric Stuzville is suggesting a run, and Brian Flores is saying, I think we should run. And then Stuzville is saying, I like this run. And then Godsey is giving it to Fry. And then I'm assuming Fry isn't changing plays, but it's just a
No.
lot of people involved, man. It's just very complex. I'm not saying that it won't work, but I mean, look, the results through 3 games have not been good. I kind of wish they had just hired
Oh, well,
and
let's not pick on half the coordinator, right? Because they ran the hell out of the ball yet last week. So the running side worked, right? They
they
ran
were
for
a little more
133.
aggressive and a little
One
more
running back
physical.
averaged 5 yards. The other running back averaged 4. Sounds to me like the running coordinator part worked. You know what I'm saying? The passing part, well, that's a whole different ball game. And there may be other scenarios involved, but it's funny that I hear people complaining about the dual offensive coordinators, and then every time I heard somebody complain, I would turn to them and say, well, wait a minute, they ran the hell out of the ball, they had 133 yards, so don't give me that half the coordinators were the problem, because they ran the ball. One guy did his job, so maybe the issues are just with the passing game, blocking, and passing with the quarterback and the receivers hanging out of balls and, whatever. I mean, maybe that's where the issue is right now. It's not so much the communication of it. It's maybe more the execution. Like you heard the coordinator say, well, he had 5 receivers en route, and I think he was just covering and being nice for Jacoby, but Jacoby had to know, like elementary, my dear Watson, the last thing I do is throw a screen in my end
He
zone.
shouldn't have thrown the
Let me go to
pass to
my
the
other
guy,
4
but why
options.
was the guy even standing there? Why did
Maybe
you
he's a
pick?
decoy. He's a decoy, Joe. For that
I
play,
asked Stutesville,
in that
was he
scenario,
a
he's a
decoy, and
decoy.
he said no.
Huh?
I asked Stutesville, was Waddle a decoy, and he said no.
What's he gonna do, dude? He's not gonna completely throw. He's not gonna turn to you and say, bottom line, Jacoby Brissett was an idiot. In that scenario, yes, he has 5 options. That's not one of them. You can use it as a fake and maybe pump it to him and then go to somebody else, but you don't throw it there. But he's not going to throw his quarterback absolutely under the bus and say, Jacoby just had an incredible brain fart at a moment, and he knows he shouldn't have thrown that. I think he was being nice.
Brian Flores reiterated his offensive philosophy yesterday when we pressed him with a number of questions. And he said, basically, we want to keep the game close and win it at the end. We want to limit mistakes. We want to, we don't feel that we have to create one identity of who we are. We don't need to figure out what we do well and do it over and over again, which is what I would do. Okay. What he wants is for them to be pretty good at everything, so that they can select what they think will work against any given opponent. All right, it sounds good in theory, but if you aren't very good at any one thing, how can you be quite good at everything? And so, and I don't think that this Dolphins team needs to be quite as conservative considering the weapons they have. Now, I understand that it's hard to throw downfield passes when your offensive line is not holding up.
Right.
But, it's a vicious circle, man. Like, did they draft the wrong offensive lineman, or are they not being coached as well as they should be? Or are the schemes not benefiting them? It's just a big circle. And everybody gets the credit when it works, and everybody gets the blame when it doesn't, including all of the offensive coordinators with their numerous ideas.
And by the way, the what you're telling me scares the shit out of me because it reminds me a lot of Wanstead. Keep it close, defense, punting, win it at the end. That kind of stuff. Almost like, it's kind of disturbing. All right. So what do you got going on this week? What's your selection? Do the Dolphins win this week? Because they desperately need to win.
I'm actually picking the Dolphins to win somewhere around 27-21, I believe. And it's mostly an indictment on the Colts and injured Carson Wentz and injured Quentin Nelson and injured Darius Leonard. And, they have so many talented players who are either going to be out or trying to play hurt. This is a team that is lacking confidence, and it's really spiraling in the wrong way. And I think that while there might be desperation in the Colts camp, the sense I got yesterday from the Dolphins is that their players are on edge and that they are going to play well.
Well, I would hope so, man. And they're home, and this is you think about this, Joe. You win this game, you're going to lose next week. But then if you beat Jacksonville, you're 3-3, and considering everything that's gone, that's not actually with 11 games left. You're in actually a really, really good spot if you can show some improvement in the O-line and then get Tua back. Things won't be that bad for the Dolphins if they can take care of business 2 out of the next 3 weeks, correct?
Yeah, it's a long season, especially with the addition of a 17th game. It is absolutely true that things go from the sky is falling to playoff dreams in 60 minutes. And if the Dolphins come out and thump the Colts 34-6, the entire narrative will change. And I understand that coaches and players can't be focused too much on the wild swing from fans and media from week to week. But, hey, it's part of our job, bud.
Yep, that's right. Follow him on Twitter at Schad Joe. Catch his exceptional work at the Palm Beach Post. Catch him twice a week here. You'll catch him again pregame on Sunday morning as we get you ready for Dolphins and Colts. Joe, thank you for taking some time, my brother. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Big O. Be well.